What happens when a beloved British acting legend sits down for what should be a simple morning chat, only to be blindsided by a host who crosses every line? In just 36 seconds of uncomfortable silence, the entire set would realize they were witnessing something unforgivable. This is the story of how Lorraine Kelly destroyed her own show. Julie Walters walked onto the set that morning with the same warmth she brought to every interview. The audience clapped as she settled into the bright orange sofa, smoothing down her jacket. She smiled at Lorraine, at the panel members sitting across from them. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed fine. Lorraine leaned forward with that practiced television smile. "Julie, lovely to have you here. Now, I have to ask, darling, you've been looking rather tired lately. Are you sure you're taking care of yourself?" The audience went quiet. Julie's smile flickered, but held. "I'm sorry." "Well, you know what I mean," Lorraine continued, gesturing vaguely at Julie's face. "You're looking a bit worn down. A bit rough around the edges, if I'm being honest. Have you considered maybe taking a break? Retiring, perhaps?" One of the panel members, Rachel, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She glanced at her co-panelist, Marcus, who was staring down at his notes like he wanted to disappear. The audience members looked at each other, confused smiles fading from their faces. This wasn't the warm, friendly interview they had expected to see. Julie's voice remained steady, though something had changed in her eyes. "Lorraine, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at. I feel perfectly fine." "Oh, come now," Lorraine said with a laugh that didn't reach anyone else. "We're all friends here. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You're not getting any younger, are you? And those wrinkles, goodness. Have you thought about doing something about those?" A woman in the third row covered her mouth with her hand. The camera operator closest to the main stage zoomed in slightly on Julie's face, capturing the moment her professional smile began to freeze in place. In the control room, someone muttered something about cutting away, but no one moved to actually do it. Everyone seemed frozen, waiting to see where this would go. "I think," Julie said carefully, each word measured, "that aging is a natural part of life. I've never tried to hide my age or pretend to be something I'm not." "Yes, but that's exactly the problem, isn't it?" Lorraine leaned back in her seat, crossing her legs. "You're not trying at all. Some actresses, they make an effort. They keep themselves up. They do what needs to be done to stay relevant. But you're just, well, letting yourself go, aren't you?" The camera operators exchanged shocked looks. In the control room, producers were frantically whispering. But Lorraine kept going, seemingly unaware or uncaring about the growing discomfort spreading through the studio like a cold wind. "I mean, when you stand next to the younger actresses, it must be difficult, mustn't it? Knowing that you're, well, past your prime." Lorraine's smile never wavered, but there was something cruel behind it now. Something that made people in the audience lean back in their seats. They're so fresh, so vibrant, so full of life. And then there's you. How does that feel, Julie? Honestly. Julie sat perfectly still. Her hands rested on her lap, but her knuckles had gone white. When she spoke, her voice was quieter than before. "Past my prime." "Yes, exactly. I'm glad you understand." Lorraine turned to the camera with a bright smile, as if she hadn't just insulted one of Britain's most beloved actresses on live television. Julie's always been so gracious about these things. Not like some actresses who can't accept reality. Some of them, they fight it tooth and nail, don't they? Plastic surgery, Botox, all sorts of desperate measures. But not Julie. She's just accepted that her best days are behind her. Someone in the audience made a small sound of protest. Rachel's hands had curled into fists on the panel desk. Marcus had gone pale, his pen frozen above his notepad. Rachel finally spoke up, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Lorraine, perhaps we should move on to discussing Julie's actual work. Her recent film was nominated for several awards." Lorraine waved her off without looking, her hand cutting through the air dismissively. In a moment, Rachel. I'm having a conversation here. An important conversation that needs to be had. She turned back to Julie, her eyes bright with something that looked almost like excitement. Now, Julie, tell me honestly, do you ever feel like you're just taking roles away from younger, more relevant actresses? Don't you feel a bit selfish holding on like this? These young women, they have their whole careers ahead of them. And here you are, cluttering up the industry, taking up space that could go to someone who actually has a future. The audience had gone from quiet to silent. The kind of silence that presses down on everyone in the room, heavy and suffocating. A woman in the front row had tears in her eyes. Whether from shock or sympathy, it was impossible to tell. The studio lights seemed too bright suddenly, harsh and unforgiving. Marcus cleared his throat, his voice shaking when he spoke. I think what Julie has accomplished is remarkable, and her recent performances have been absolutely brilliant. She brings a depth and experience to her roles that, frankly, younger actresses simply haven't developed yet. There's a reason directors continue to seek her out. Nobody asked you, Marcus, Lorraine snapped, her mask slipping for just a second before she plastered the smile back on. Her eyes had gone hard, glittering with something ugly. I'm talking to Julie. This is between me and her. So, Julie, when you look in the mirror every morning, do you ever think, maybe it's time? Maybe I should step aside and let the next generation shine? Or are you too selfish to even consider it? Julie's jaw tightened. She took a slow breath through her nose, her chest rising and falling with the effort of maintaining her composure. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but steady. Lorraine, I came here today as a professional, as a guest on your show. I agreed to this interview because I thought we would discuss my work, my experiences, perhaps some stories from my career. I didn't come here to be insulted. Insulted? Lorraine's eyes went wide with fake innocence, her mouth forming a perfect O of surprise. Darling, I'm not insulting you. I'm being honest. Someone has to tell you the truth. Your friends clearly aren't doing it. Look at you, Julie. Really look at yourself. You're clinging to a career that's frankly passed you by. You're holding on with both hands to something that's already slipped through your fingers. Don't you think it's embarrassing? Don't you think people watch you on screen and feel sorry for you? A gasp rippled through the audience. Someone near the back said, "This is awful," in a loud whisper that the microphones picked up. Rachel's face had gone red, whether from anger or embarrassment for her boss. It was hard to say. That's enough, Julie said quietly, but there was steel in her voice now. But Lorraine leaned in closer, like a predator sensing weakness. Is it though? Is it enough? Because I don't think we've really addressed the elephant in the room. You're old, Julie. You're old, and you're not what audiences want to see anymore. They want youth. They want beauty. They want potential and promise, not someone who's already given everything they had to give. Why can't you just accept that? Why can't you bow out gracefully instead of forcing everyone to watch you fade away in real time? Rachel stood up from the panel table, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Lorraine, stop this right now. This is cruel. This is unprofessional. This is not what any of us signed up for. Lorraine spun toward her, and for a moment, the friendly television host persona dropped completely. What was left behind was cold and hard. Sit down, Rachel. Right now. This is my show. My name is on the door, and I'll conduct my interviews however I see fit. If you don't like it, you know where the exit is. This isn't an interview, Marcus said, his voice shaking slightly but growing stronger with each word. This is a humiliation. This is you bullying a guest for no reason. What's wrong with you? What happened to you that made you think this was acceptable? Oh, please, Lorraine scoffed, her laugh sharp and brittle. Julie's a big girl. She can handle a little honest feedback. Can't you, Julie? She turned back to her guest with that poisonous smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes. Tell them you can handle it. Tell them I'm right. Tell them you know you're past it. Julie remained silent, her gaze fixed on Lorraine with an intensity that made even the camera operators take a step back. It was the look of someone who had reached their limit, someone who was deciding in real time how to respond to something unforgivable. Lorraine's smile started to crack. Her eyes darted from Julie's face to the cameras, to the audience, then back again. What? What are you looking at me like that for? I'm trying to help you. Can't you see that? Someone needs to tell you that you're not the darling of British cinema anymore. You're just a sad old woman who doesn't know when to quit, who doesn't understand that her time has passed, that the world has moved on without her. Right, Julie said softly, placing her hands on the armrests of the sofa. Her movements were slow, deliberate, controlled. Right what? Lorraine demanded, her voice rising with barely contained panic. Right that you're old? Right that you should retire? Right that nobody wants to see you anymore? Which is it? Say it. Say I'm right. Julie stood up slowly. The microphone pack clipped to her waist nearly pulled free, and a sound technician rushed forward to disconnect it properly. The audience watched in complete stillness as Julie removed her microphone with careful, deliberate movements. Where do you think you're going? Lorraine's voice had risen an octave. We're in the middle of an interview. No, Julie said, her voice carrying across the studio with perfect clarity, cutting through the tension like a knife. We're in the middle of you forgetting who you're speaking to. We're in the middle of you forgetting basic human decency. We're in the middle of you showing everyone watching exactly who you really are beneath all the makeup and the lights and the carefully rehearsed pleasantries. Lorraine laughed, but it came out strangled, desperate. Oh, come off it. Don't be so dramatic. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You can't handle a bit of criticism. You can't handle the truth. You're weak, Julie. Weak and old and irrelevant. Criticism? Julie turned to face her fully, and there was something magnificent about her in that moment. Dignified. Unbreakable. You've spent the last 10 minutes attacking my appearance, my age, my career, and my worth as a human being. You've called me old, washed up, embarrassing, selfish, and irrelevant. You've suggested I'm taking opportunities from younger actresses out of spite. You've mocked my appearance, my choices, and my continued presence in an industry I've been part of longer than you've been alive. That's not criticism, Lorraine. That's cruelty. That's malice. That's you trying to tear someone down to make yourself feel bigger. I'm being honest, Lorraine insisted, standing up now too, her whole body tense. Someone has to be. Someone has to have the courage to say what everyone's thinking. You're not special, Julie. You're not above criticism. You're just another actress who stayed too long at the party. No, Rachel interjected from the panel, her voice shaking with rage. You're being vicious. There's a difference between honest feedback and what you're doing right now. This is an attack. This is you using your platform to bully someone who came here in good faith. I've worked on this show for 3 years, and I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen you treat anyone with this level of disrespect. Lorraine pointed at Rachel without looking at her, her finger jabbing the air. You're fired. Both of you are fired. Marcus and Rachel, you're done. Pack your things and get out of my studio. You can't fire us in the middle of a live show, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. He stood up anyway, gathering his notes. But you know what? I don't care. I don't want to be associated with this anymore. I don't want my name attached to what you're doing here. Watch me, Lorraine snarled. Her attention snapped back to Julie. And you. You're going to sit back down right now, and we're going to finish this interview like professionals. We have 15 minutes left, and we're going to use them. Julie shook her head slowly. I don't think so. Excuse me? Lorraine's face had gone red. I said sit down. And I said no. Julie's voice remained calm, controlled. Everything Lorraine's wasn't. The contrast between them was stark. One woman spiraling, desperate, grasping. The other steady, certain, unmovable. I've worked in this industry for decades. I've been directed by legends. I've performed on stages and in films that will be remembered long after this show is forgotten. I've worked with people who understood what it meant to treat their colleagues with dignity. I've been part of productions that lifted people up instead of tearing them down. And I've never, not once, been spoken to the way you've spoken to me today. Not by directors, not by co-stars, not by journalists, not by anyone. Well, maybe you should have been, Lorraine shot back, her face flushed red now, sweat beading on her forehead despite the studio's air conditioning. Maybe if someone had told you the truth years ago, you wouldn't be embarrassing yourself now by still trying to compete with actresses half your age. Maybe you'd have some dignity left. Maybe you'd know when to step aside gracefully instead of clinging on like this. The audience gasped. Someone in the front row actually said, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Others were shaking their heads. A few people had tears streaming down their faces. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was witnessing something break in real time, watching a television host self-destruct on live television while attacking someone who had done nothing to deserve it. Julie's expression didn't change. Her face remained calm, composed, the picture of professionalism even in the face of such hostility. I'm not competing with anyone, Lorraine. I never have been. I do my work because I love it, because I'm good at it, because directors still want to work with me and audiences still want to see me, because I have stories to tell and characters to bring to life. Not because I'm trying to prove something to people like you. Not because I'm desperate to hold on to youth or relevance or whatever it is you think I should be chasing. People like me? Lorraine's voice went shrill. I'm the host of one of the most successful morning shows in Britain. I'm the one asking the questions everyone wants answered. No one wants these questions answered, Rachel said from behind them. No one wants to watch you tear down a national treasure because you're, what, jealous? Bitter? Having a bad day? Lorraine whirled on her. I told you to shut up. And I'm not listening, Rachel replied. Because this is wrong, Lorraine. This is so far beyond wrong. Julie was already walking toward the edge of the set. A production assistant tried to approach her, but she held up a hand. It's all right. I know my way out. You walk off this set, and you'll never work in television again, Lorraine called after her. I have connections. I have influence. I can make sure of it. Julie stopped. She didn't turn around. Lorraine, you've just spent the better part of 15 minutes destroying your own reputation on live television. I don't think your threats carry much weight anymore. I'm trying to save you from yourself, Lorraine insisted, her voice breaking slightly. Don't you see that? I'm trying to help you exit gracefully before you become a joke. The only joke here is you, Marcus said quietly. And it's not funny. Julie started walking again. Her footsteps echoed in the silent studio. Cameras followed her movement automatically, capturing every second. She reached the edge of the set where crew members stood frozen, unsure what to do. Lorraine's voice carried across the space, desperate now. Fine, walk away. Prove that you can't handle the truth. Prove that you're weak. Julie paused at the curtain. She turned back, and for the first time, she looked directly into the nearest camera. I've never walked away from anything in my life that deserved my time and energy. But this doesn't deserve another second. You're making a mistake, Lorraine said, but her voice had lost its venom. She sounded scared now. You're walking out on me. On my show. Everyone will remember this. Yes, Julie agreed. They will. They'll remember exactly what happened here. They'll remember what you said, how you said it, and they'll remember that I had enough self-respect to leave. The audience started clapping. Just one person at first, then two, then a dozen, then everyone. The sound built and built until it filled the entire studio. People were standing now, applauding Julie as she stood at the edge of the set. Lorraine looked around in disbelief. Stop that. Stop clapping. She's walking out. She's unprofessional. But no one was listening to her anymore. The cameras had shifted focus. The crew was watching Julie. Even Marcus and Rachel had stood from the panel table, their hands coming together in support. Julie gave the smallest nod to the audience, a gesture of thanks, then turned and walked through the curtain. The sound of applause followed her until the heavy fabric fell back into place, muffling it to a distant rumble. On the set, Lorraine stood alone next to the orange sofa. Her microphone picked up her breathing, fast and shallow. She looked at Rachel and Marcus, who stared back at her with expressions of disgust. "What?" Lorraine demanded. "What are you all looking at? She's the one who left. She's the unprofessional one." Rachel picked up her notes and started walking off the set. Marcus followed without a word. "Where are you going?" Lorraine called after them. "We're still on air. We have 20 minutes left. Get back here." Neither of them turned around. A producer's voice crackled through someone's earpiece, loud enough to be heard in the quiet. "Cut to commercial. Now. Cut to commercial." But the cameras kept rolling for another few seconds. Long enough to capture Lorraine's face as she realized what had just happened. Long enough to see her smile completely disappear. Long enough to watch her look around at a set full of people who wouldn't meet her eyes. "This is my show," she said to no one in particular. "My show." Someone finally cut to commercial. The bright lights dimmed slightly. Lorraine sat back down on the orange sofa, her hands trembling. She looked at the spot where Julie had been sitting just minutes before. The cushion still held the impression of her guest's weight. Backstage, Julie walked past dressing rooms and equipment racks. Crew members stopped what they were doing as she passed. Some of them nodded. Others looked away, embarrassed. One young woman, barely out of her teens, approached hesitantly. "Miss Walters, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry. That was horrible. You didn't deserve any of that." Julie stopped and offered her a genuine smile. "Thank you, love. That's very kind." "You were amazing," the young woman continued, her eyes bright. "The way you handled yourself. I would have fallen apart." "You're stronger than you think," Julie told her. "We all are. We just don't know it until we're tested." She continued down the corridor toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear raised voices from the studio. Producers arguing. Assistants running. The sounds of a show falling apart in real time. Julie pushed open the heavy door that led to the outside world. Fresh air hit her face. The morning sun was bright and warm. She took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and walked to the waiting car. The driver opened the door for her. "Everything all right, Miss Walters?" "Yes," she said, settling into the back seat. "Everything's fine." As the car pulled away from the studio, Julie looked back at the building one last time. Through the windows, she could see people moving frantically. Phones would be ringing. Emails would be flying. Social media would be exploding. But none of that was her concern anymore. She had said what needed to be said. She had done what needed to be done. And she had walked away with her dignity intact, which was more than could be said for everyone she'd left behind. Inside the studio, in the green room where guests waited before their segments, other scheduled guests for the show were watching the monitor in shocked silence. A comedian who was supposed to appear in the next segment stood up and started gathering his things. "Where are you going?" his publicist asked. "Anywhere but here," he replied. "I'm not going on that show. Not after what I just watched." Two other guests followed his lead. Within minutes, the green room was empty, except for one person, a lifestyle blogger who sat frozen, staring at the screen where they were still running commercials. Back in the studio, Lorraine had been ushered off set. She sat in her private dressing room, looking at herself in the mirror, surrounded by bright bulbs. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was perfect. Everything about her appearance was exactly as it should be. But something in her eyes looked hollow. A knock at the door. "Lorraine, the producers need to speak with you." She didn't answer. She just kept staring at her reflection, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. She had been in control. It was her show, her name, her rules. Except somewhere in the middle of all that control, she had forgotten the most basic rule of all. Treat people with respect. Treat them with kindness. Treat them like human beings, worthy of dignity. And now everyone had seen what happened when that rule got broken. Everyone had seen her true face beneath the makeup and the lights and the carefully constructed television persona. They had seen someone cruel and small and desperate to tear someone else down. Another knock. "Lorraine, we really need you to come out." She stood slowly, smoothing down her dress. She opened the door to find 3 producers waiting, their expressions grim. "We need to discuss what just happened," the senior producer said. "I know what happened," Lorraine replied. "Julie Walters threw a tantrum and walked off my show." The 3 producers exchanged glances. The senior one spoke again. "That's not what happened, Lorraine, and you know it." But Lorraine pushed past them, her heels clicking on the hard floor as she walked back toward the studio. "I have a show to finish. We have guests waiting." "Actually," another producer said, following her, "we don't. They've all left." Lorraine stopped walking. "What?" "Every single guest scheduled for today has pulled out. They don't want to be associated with what happened." "That's ridiculous," Lorraine said, but her voice lacked conviction. "They're overreacting. It was just a conversation." "It was verbal assault," the third producer said bluntly. "On live television. The phones are ringing off the hook. Social media is going insane. And none of it is good, Lorraine." She turned to face them, her carefully maintained composure starting to crack. "So what are you saying?" "We're saying the show is over for today. We're running reruns. And we're saying you need to go home and wait while we figure out what to do next." "What to do next?" Lorraine's voice rose. "This is my show. You can't make decisions about my show without me." "Actually," the senior producer said quietly, "we can, and we are. Go home, Lorraine." She looked at each of them in turn, searching for some sign of support, some hint that they were on her side. She found nothing but disappointment and anger. "Fine," she said finally. "But this isn't over. We'll come back from this. I'll come back from this." None of them responded. They just watched as she walked away, her confident stride now looking more like a retreat. The studio fell quiet again. Technicians began shutting down equipment. The audience had been thanked and dismissed. The bright lights were dimming. The set that had been so alive with activity just an hour before now looked empty and sad. In the control room, someone had pulled up social media on one of the monitors. Clips of the exchange were everywhere. Comments flooded in by the thousands. Julie Walters' name was trending. So was Lorraine Kelly's, but for very different reasons. One young producer read some of the comments aloud. Here's one. "Absolutely disgusting behavior from Lorraine Kelly. Julie Walters is a national treasure." She scrolled down. Another one. "I've never been so disappointed in a television host. The way she spoke to Julie was unforgivable." "Okay, that's enough," the senior producer said. "Everyone, take the rest of the day off. We'll regroup tomorrow." As people filed out, collecting their belongings and whispering to each other, the senior producer sat alone in the control room. On the screen in front of him, frozen on pause, was an image of Julie Walters' face in the moment right before she stood up. Her expression was calm, dignified, and completely done with the situation. He pressed play and watched the rest of the segment again. Watched Lorraine dig herself deeper with every word. Watched the panel members try to intervene. Watched the audience's shock turn to support. Watched Julie walk away, like the professional she was. When it was over, he turned off the monitor and sat in the darkness of the control room. Outside, the sun was climbing higher in the sky. It was still morning. The day had barely started. But for this show, for this moment in television history, everything had already been decided. The story would be told and retold. The clips would be shared and reshared. People would debate and discuss and analyze every second of what had happened. But at the heart of it all was something simple and undeniable. One person had chosen cruelty. Another had chosen dignity. And everyone had watched it happen in real time, unable to look away, unable to forget what they had witnessed. The moment when a host forgot her role, forgot her manners, forgot everything except her need to tear someone down. And the moment when a guest remembered exactly who she was and walked away from someone who no longer deserved her time.